Namaste, good evening. This is reading 8 of Balkand. Um, we'll continue from where we have left. And if you would like to catch up, please go back to the previous videos on Sankat Mochan Hanuman channel. So we'll start now. That is why I live in this world away from the public gaze. I have little to do with anything other than Sri Hari. The Lord knows everything without being told. Tell me, then, what is being gained by humoring the world? You are sincere and intelligent and are therefore supremely dear to me, and I too have earned your affection and confidence. Now, my son, if I were to keep anything from you, I shall incur the most severe blame. The more the hermit talked of his indifference to the world, the more trustful grew the king. When the false anchorite saw the king devoted to him in thought, word, and deed, he said, "My name, brother, is Ekatanu." Hearing this, the king bowed his head and asked further, "Kindly explain to me the meaning of the appellation, recognizing me as your faithful servant." My birth took place at the first dawn of creation. Since then, I have never taken another body. That is why I am Ekatanu. Marvel not, my son, to hear this, for nothing is too difficult to obtain through penance. By dint of penance, Brahma creates the universe. By dint of penance, Vishnu assumed the role of protector. By dint of penance, again, Shambhu destroys the world. There is nothing in this world which cannot be attained through penance. Hearing this, the king felt much enamored, and the hermit commenced relating old legends. Having discussed topics of karma, dharma, and told many legends bearing on them, he discoursed on dispassion and knowledge. And he further related at length countless marvelous stories connected with the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the universe. Hearing all this, the king completely yielded to the influence of the hermit and then proceeded to tell them his real name. Said the hermit, "O king, I know you. Even though you tried to deceive me, I appreciated this move on your part. O king, the political maxim that is that kings should not disclose their name in all cases, and when I thought of your political sagacity, I conceived great love for you. Your name is Pratapbhanu. King Satyaketu was your father. O king, by the grace of my preceptor, I know everything. But foreseeing my own harm, I refuse to tell everything I know. When I saw your natural straightforwardness, affection, faith, political wisdom, and conceived a spontaneous affection for you, and that is why I told you my own story on your asking. I am now pleased. Doubt not, and ask what you will. O king, hearing these agreeable words, and the king rejoiced, and clasping the hermit's feet, supplicated to him in many ways. O gracious sage, by your very sight I have within my grasp all the four ends of human existence. Yet, as I see my Lord so gracious, I would ask a boon which is impossible to attain otherwise, and thereby overcome sorrow. Let my body be free from the old age, death, and suffering. Let no one vanquish me in battle, and let me enjoy undisputed sovereignty over the globe for 100 kalpas, means repetitions of creation, and let me have no enemies." Said the anchorite, "So be it, O king, but there is one difficulty. Hear it to it. Even death shall bow his head at your feet. The only exception shall be the Brahmanas, O ruler of the earth. The Brahmanas are ever powerful by virtue of their penance. No one can deliver from their wrath. If you can propitiate the Brahmanas to your will, O king, even Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva shall be at your command. Might is of no avail against the Brahmanas. With both arms raised to heaven, I tell you this truth. Listen, O sovereign, if you escape the Brahmana's curse, you shall never perish. Hearing his words, the king rejoiced and said, My lord, I shall no longer die by your grace, O benevolent Master, I shall be blessed at all times. Amen, said the false anchorite, and added the crafty intent. If you tell anyone about my meeting with you and your straying away, the fault shall not be mine. I warn you, O king, because great harm shall befall you if you relate this incident to anyone. If this talk happens to reach the third pair of ears, I tell you the truth, you are doomed. O Pratap Bhanu, if you divulge the secret, or if Brahmana curses you, you are undone. If no other way shall you die, even if Sri Hari and Hara get angry with you. It is true, my lord, said the king, clasping the hermit's feet. Tell me, who can deliver from the wrath of Brahmana or spiritual preceptor? A guru can save one even if one has evoked the wrath of Brahma. But in the event of quarrel with one's preceptor, there is no one in the world who can save. If I do not follow your advice, let me perish. I care not. My mind is disturbed by only one fear. The curse of Brahmana, my lord, is something most terrible. How shall I be able to win over Brahmanas? Kindly tell me that too. I see no well-wishes other than you, my gracious lord. Listen, O king, there are various expedients in this world, but they are hard to accomplish and are of doubtful issues. Besides, of course, there is one very simple device, but that too involves one difficulty. Its contrivance depends on me, but my going to your city is out of the question. Ever since I was born, I have never been to anybody's house or village so far, and if I do not go, it will be misfortune for you. I am therefore in dilemma today. Hearing this, the king replied in a polite language, My lord, there is a maxim laid down in the Vedas. The great show kindness to the small. Mountains always bear tiny blades of grass on their tops. The fathomless ocean carries floating foam on its breast, and the earth ever bears dust on its bosom. So saying, the king clasped the hermit's feet and said, Be gracious to me, my master. You are a saint, compassionate, and to the humble. Therefore, my lord, take this trouble on my behalf. Knowing the king was completely under his influence, the hermit, who was clever at deception, said, Listen, O king, I tell you the truth. For me, in this world, there is nothing hard to obtain. I will surely accomplish your object, devoted as you are in thought, word, and deed to me. The power of yoga, contemplation, planning, penance, and mystic formulas work only when secrecy is maintained about them. O king, if I cook food and you serve it, and if nobody comes to know me, whoever tastes the food so prepared shall become amenable to your orders. Again, I tell you, whoever dines at the house of such people shall, O king, be dominated by your will. Go and operate this scheme, O king, and take this vow for a whole year. Every day invite a new set of 100,000 Brahmins with their families, while I, as long as your vow lasts, shall provide the daily banquet. In this way, O king, with little exertion, all the Brahmanas shall be propitiate to your will. The Brahmanas, in their turn, will offer oblations into the sacred fire perform big sacrifices, and practice adoration. And through that channel, the gods too shall be easily won over. I give you one more sign. I will never come in this form. By my delusive power, O king, I will carry off your family priest and making him just like myself by dint of my penance will keep him here for the year. While I, O king, will take this form and manage everything for you. The night is far gone, so you had better retire now. On the third day we'll meet again. By my penitential power, I will convey you home, both you and your horse, even while you are asleep. I will come in form I have told you, and you will recognize me when I call you aside and remind you of all this. The king went to sleep in obedience to hermit, while the counterfeit sage returned to his own seat and sat down there. Deep sleep came upon the weary monarch. But how could the other fellow sleep? Distracted as he was with anxiety, the demon Kalaketu made his appearance there. It was he who had assumed the form of a boar and led the king astray. A great friend of the hermit king, he was skilled in manifold ways of deceit. He had 100 sons and 10 brothers, who were great villains, invincible and unknowing to the gods. Seeing the Brahmanas, saints and gods in distress, the king had already killed them all in battle. Recalling the old grudge, the wretch conspired with the hermit king and contrived a plot for the extermination of the enemy. But as the fate would have it, the king knew nothing of it. A spirited foe, even though left alone, should not be lightly regarded. The demon Rahu, who has nothing left of him but his head, is able to torment both the sun and moon even to this day. The hermit king was delighted to see his ally and rose to meet him. The meeting gave him much satisfaction. He related the whole story to his friend. The demon too was glad and said, "Listen, O king, since you have followed my advice, take the enemy as subdued. Cease to worry now and lay yourself to rest. God has effected a cure without the use of medicine. I will sweep away the enemy root and branch and see you on the fourth day." Fully reassuring the hermit king, the arch impostor, who was highly irascible, departed. In an instant, he conveyed Pratapbhanu to his palace, horse and all. Putting the king to bed beside his queen, he tied up the horse in the stall in a proper way. Again, he carried off the king's family priest and deprived him of his senses by supernatural power, kept him in mountain cave. Himself assuming the form of family priest, the demon went and lay down on the former's sumptuous bed. The king woke even before daybreak and felt much astonished to find himself at home. Attributing the miracle to the glory of the sage, he got up quietly, unperceived by the queen. Mounting the same horse, he rode off to the woods, without any man or woman of the city knowing it. When it was midday, the king returned. There was the rejoicing and festal music in every house. When the king saw his family priest, he looked at him in amazement, recollecting the object he held so dear to his heart. The interval of these days hung heavy on the monarch as an age. In his mind sat on the feet of the false anchorite. At the appointed time, the priest came and reminded him in detail of all that had been agreed upon. The king was delighted to recognize his preceptor. In his mind was too clouded to have any sense left. At once he invited 100,000 chosen Brahmanas with their families. The priest cooked 4 kinds of foods and 6 different tastes as mentioned in the Vedas. He prepared an illusory banquet and variety of seasoned dishes more than one could count. Dressing the flesh of variety of animals, the wretch mixed with it the cooked flesh of Brahmanas. All the invited Brahmanas were then called for the dinner. Their feet were duly washed and they were respectfully shown their places. The moment the king began to serve the food, voice from heaven said, "Up, up, Brahmanas, and return to your homes. Taste not this food, it is most harmful. The dishes include the flesh of the Brahmanas." Up rose the Brahmanas, believing the ethereal voice. The king lost his nerve, his mind was bewildered with infatuation. As fate would have it, he could not utter a word. Then exclaimed the Brahmanas in wrath, without second thought, "O foolish king, go and take birth in the demon's form, you and all your family." O vile Kshatriya, inviting the Brahmanas, you were out to ruin them with their families. But God has preserved your sanctity. It is you and your race that are undone. In the course of a year you shall perish, and not a soul shall be left in your family to offer water to gratify your spirit. Hearing the curse, the king was sore stricken with fear. Again a voice was heard from heaven. "O holy Brahmanas, you have uttered this curse without careful thought. The king has committed no crime." The Brahmanas were astounded when they heard the ethereal voice. The king hastened to the kitchen. There was neither any food nor the Brahmana cook. The king returned to deep thought. He related the whole story to the Brahmanas and threw himself on the ground, frantic with fear. "Even though you are guiltless, O king, what is inevitable fails not. A Brahmana's curse is very terrible. No amount of effort can counteract it." So saying, all the Brahmanas dispersed. When the people of the city received the news, they were much perturbed and began to blame Providence, who had begun upon a swan and produced a crow instead. Conveying the priest to his house, the demon Kalaketu communicated the tidings to the hermit. The wretch in his tomb dispatched letters in all directions, and a host of princes hastened with their troops martially arrayed and beating their cattle drums, beleaguered the city. Every day battles were fought in diverse forms. All his champions fought valiantly and fell, and the king with his brother bit the dust. No one of Satyaketu's family survived. A Brahmana's curse can never fail. Having vanquished the foe and re-inhibiting the city, all the chiefs returned to their own capitals, enriched with victory and fame. Listen, O Bharadwaj, whatever incurs the displeasure of heaven, whoever so incurs displeasure of heaven, for him a grain of dust becomes vast as Mount Meru. Father becomes frightful as Yama, and rope as a snake. O sage, in due time I tell you, this king with his family was born as a demon. He had 10 heads and 20 arms. His name was Ravana. He was a formidable hero. The king's younger brother, Amardana, by name, became the powerful Kumkarna. His minister, who was known as Dharmaruchi, became Ravana's younger half-brother, Vibhishana by name, who is known to be whole world as a devotee of God Vishnu and repository of wisdom. And the king's sons and servants, they were born as fierce demon crew. These wretches could take any shape they liked and belonged to various orders. They were all wicked, monstrous, and devoid of sense, and were ruthless, bloody, and sinful. They were a torment to all creation beyond what words can tell. Even though they were born in incomparably pure and holy line of the sage Pulastya, yet on account of Brahmana's curse, they were all embodiments of sin. All the three brothers practiced austerities of various kinds, most severe beyond description. Seeing their penance, the Creator drew nigh and said to the eldest of them, "Ask a boon, dear son." The 10-headed Ravana suppliantly clasped at his feet and addressed to him and following words: "Listen, O Lord of the universe, my prayer is that I should die at the hands of none save monkeys and men. So be it, you have done great penance." This was the boon Brahma and I granted him, said Shiva. The Creator then approached Kumkarna and was astonished to see his gigantic form. Brahma said to himself, "Should this wretch have any daily repast, the whole world will be no more." So Brahma directed Sharda, who changed his mind. According to demon, asked for continued sleep extending over 6 months. Last of all, Brahma went to the Vibhishana and said, "Ask a boon, my son." He asked for pure love for the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Having granted them boons, Brahma went away. While they returned to the home rejoicing, the demon Maya had a daughter. The demon Maya had a daughter, Mandodari by name, who was exceedingly beautiful, a jewel of womankind. Maya brought and made her over to Ravana, knowing that the latter was going to become the lord of the demons. Delighted at having obtained such a good wife, Ravana next went and married his 2 brothers. On the 3-peaked mountains called Trikuta, in the middle of ocean, there stood a very large fortress built by Brahma himself. The demon Maya renovated it. It contained numberless palaces of gold and jewels and was more beautiful and charming than Bhogavati, the capital of Patala, the city of serpents, and Amravati, the capital of Indra. It was known throughout the world by the name of Lanka. The ocean surrounded it on all sides as a very deep moat. It had a strong fortification wall built of gold and jewels, the architectural beauty of which defied description. Whoever was preordained by Sri Hari to be the chief of the demons in particular cycle, that illustrious hero of incomparable might lived there with his army. Great demon warrior had been living there. They were all exterminated in battle by the gods. Now under Indra's commissions, it was occupied by a garrison consisting of 10 million guards of Kubera. Having obtained this news from some quarter, Ravana marshaled his army and besieged the fortress. Seeing his vast force of fierce warriors, the Yakshas fled for their lives. Thereupon Ravana surveyed the whole city. He was much pleased with what he saw, and all his anxiety was gone. Perceived what the city was naturally beautiful and inaccessible for others, Ravana fixed his capital there. By assigning quarters to his followers according to their several deserts, he made them all happy. On one occasion, he led an expedition against Kubera and carried away his aerial car known by name of Pushpak as a trophy. Again, in supportive mood, he went and lifted Mount Kailasha and thereby testing as it were. The might of his arms returned most jubilant. His happiness and prosperity, the number of his sons, his army and his allies, his victories and glory, his might, his wisdom and fame grew from more to more every day, even as avarice grows with each new grain. He had stalwart brother like Kumbhakarna, a rival to whom was never born in this world. Drinking his fill, he remained buried in sleep for 6 months, and at his waking the three worlds trembled. Were he to take his meals every day, the whole universe would soon have been ruined. He was unspeakably staunch in fight, and there were numberless brave warriors who could be compared with him. Ravana's eldest son. Ravana's eldest son was Meghnad, who ranked foremost among champions of the world. Before him none could stand in battle. Due to him there was stampede in the city of immortals every day. There were many more champions such as hideous Kumukha and intrepid Akapana, Kulisarda, with teeth with thunderbolts, the fiery Dhumketu, and the gigantic Atikaya, each one of whom was able to subdue the whole world. Taking form at will, they were skilled in form of demonic Maya. They never thought of pity or compassion, even in dream. One day, the 10-headed Ravana was seated in court and reviewed his innumerable retainers, hosts of sons and grandsons, relatives and servants, troops of demons, more than anyone could count. On seeing the host of naturally proud, Ravana spoke words full of wrath and arrogance. Listen, all demon troops. The host of heavens are my enemies. They never dare to stand up in open fight, but flee away at the sight of powerful adversary. There is only one way of causing their death, which I tell you in detail. Now listen to it. Go and prevent the feasting of brahmanas, the performance of sacrifices, the pouring of oblations into the sacred fire, the ceremonies of Shraddha, and all other religious functions. Emaciated with starvation and rendered weak, the gods will automatically surrender to me. Then I will see whether I should kill them or let them go after subjecting them perfectly to my will. Then Ravana sent for Meghnad and astonished him, inciting him to greater strength and hostility. The gods, who are staunch in battle, powerful, and proud of their fighting skills, you should conquer in battle and bring them in chains. The sun got up and forth, club in hand, got up and bowed to the commands of his father. In this way Ravana ordered all and himself sallied forth, club in hand. Even as the 10-headed Ravana marched, the earth shook, and at his thundering call the spouses of gods miscarried. Hearing of Ravana's angry approach, the gods themselves sought the caves of Mount Sumeru. When the 10-faced Ravana invaded the beautiful realms of the guardians of the 10 quarters, he found them all desolate. Again and again he roared loudly like a lion and challenging the gods to battle, scoffed at them. Mad after war, he traversed the world in search of combatant, but nowhere he could find anyone. The sun god, the moon god, the wind god, the god of water, the god of wealth and fire, the gods of time and death, and all other gods entrusted with the governance of the world. Kinnaras, Siddhas, man, gods, and Nagas, all were willfully harassed by him. All embodied beings in the creation of Brahma were man or woman submitted to Ravana's will. All did his bidding out of fear, and always bowed suppliantly at his feet. By his mighty arm, he subdued the whole universe and left no one independent. The king of kings, Ravana, ruled according to his own will. He won by the might of his arms and wedded daughters of gods, yakshas, gandharvas, human beings, kinnaras, and nagas, and many other beautiful, excellent dames. Whatever Ravana told Indrajit to do was done by him sooner as it were than the former uttered the command. Now hear what they did, who had been ordered by him even earlier. The whole demon crew, sinful at heart and of terrible aspect, were the torment of heaven. Roaming at night, they did outrageous and various kinds and assumed diverse forms through their delusive powers. They acted in every contrary to Veda and did everything in their power to eradicate religion. Whenever they found a cow or a brahmana, they set fire to that city, town, or village. Virtuous acts were nowhere to be seen. No one paid any respect to the gods, the brahmanas, and the spiritual preceptors. There was no devotion to Sri Hari, no sacrificial performances, no austerities, and no spiritual wisdom. No one would ever dream of listening to Vedas or the Puranas. If ever any talk of japa, means muttering of sacred formulas, yoga means subjugation of mind, dispassion, penance, or oblations to gods in sacrifice, entered Ravana's ear, he would at once be on the feet and run to stop them. He would allow nothing of this and would destroy everything he laid his hands upon. There was such corruption in the world that no talk of piety could be heard anywhere. Whoever recited the Vedas or the Puranas was intimidated in manifold ways and sent into exile. The terrible outrages the demons did beggar description. There is no limit to evil doings of those who hold violence most dear to their heart. The number of villains, thieves, and gamblers, and of those who coveted others, wealth and wives, swelled to the great extent. People honored not their parents and gods and exacted service from pious souls. Those who act in this way, Bhavani know all such creatures as demons. Perceiving the supreme disrespect for religion, earth was extremely distressed and perturbed. The weight of mountains, rivers, and oceans, she said to herself, it is not so oppressive to me as of him who is malevolent to others. She saw all goodness perverted. Yet, for fear of Ravana, she could not utter a word. After great deliberation, she took the form of a cow and went to the spot where all gods and sages were hiding. With tears in her eyes, she told them her suffering, but none of them could be of any help to her. The gods, sages, and Gandharvas all repaired to Brahma's abode. With them was poor earth in form of a cow, grievously stricken with fear and grief. Brahma came to know everything, and realizing his heart in his inability to help her, he said, the immortal Lord whose servant you are will be my help as well as yours. Have patience, earth, said Brahma, and fix your mind on the feet of Sri Hari. The Lord knows the distress of his servants and will put an end to your terrible sufferings. Thank you. Om. Namaste.